Well, he's not fooling me. Let's begin. The article says that Sir Keir Starmer insisted that Labour is not apparently trying to reverse Brexit, despite eyeing up plans to hand the vote to millions of EU citizens. The Labour leader has been accused by Tory MPs of a sinister plot to drag the UK back into the bloc with proposals to demand the vote and franchise to allow settled migrants to cast a ballot. But during a phone-in on LBC this morning, Sir Keir said, "The first thing is there is no plan to reverse Brexit. I don't know how many times I have said there is no case for going back in. We are going to make Brexit work, and that is our absolute firm position." He added, "This is the fact that we are looking at some of the voting issues, and looking is the operative word. There is no settled policy here." However, Sir Keir said it feels wrong that EU citizens who have lived in the UK for many years are currently unable to vote at general elections. As a sign he is keen to press ahead with the plans, he said, "As you know, EU nationals can vote in local elections, Commonwealth citizens can vote in all elections, and so we're looking at that. The thinking behind it is if someone has been here, say 10, 20 or even 30 years contributing to this economy and to the community, they ought to be able to vote." Senior Tory MPs, though, warned that Sir Keir is paving the way for the UK to rejoin the EU by rigging the system. Conservative Party Chairman Greg Hand said, "Labour's plan to give foreign nationals the vote at parliamentary elections is laying the groundwork to drag the UK back into the EU by stealth." Sir Keir has spent several years trying to block Brexit and overturn the largest democratic vote in this country's history. This is an attempt to rig the electorate to rejoin the EU. The right to vote in parliamentary elections and choose the next UK government is rightly restricted to British citizens and those with the closest historical links to our country. And also, no other EU country allows EU citizens who are not their nationals to vote in parliamentary elections. There is nothing, of course, to stop EU citizens becoming full UK citizens with the rights and duties that entails, including the right to vote in national elections. Of course, I don't know about you, but does anyone else think that he might be slightly panicking a bit? Because if he's just coming out and saying, "Look, we're not trying to reverse Brexit, honest," or something similar, then to me that kind of comes across as, "Oh no, I've been found out and want to backtrack a bit," or play down the situation. Because let's face it, one of the reasons why Boris got a big majority in 2019 was because his main message was get Brexit done. I mean, why wouldn't these people understand that is what the majority of the UK, whether they like it or not, and no matter how small that may be, a majority is a majority, and that is what the country voted for. And to try and overturn that by adding a load more voters from the EU, or also 16 to 7-year-old children to the vote, who, let's face it, nowadays seem to be taught by lefty Remainer teachers all the time, does tend to push the situation in one way, doesn't it? Which obviously goes against odds of what the country voted for 7 years ago now. Also, whilst they appear to be putting it across as either reasonable or fair for people who have lived here 20, maybe 30 years and have been contributing to our tax over that time, that they should indeed get the right to vote, what they seem to be keeping very quiet is the fact that if these people wanted to vote, they could technically do that by applying to become a British or UK citizen. So in that case, there's no reason why they can't vote, unless for whatever reason they don't want to do that. And if that is the case, then why should we give them the vote in the first place if they don't want to be one of our citizens? Not to mention the fact, of course, that no other EU, or I'm sure the world countries, actually allow that anyway, so why should we be the first? If these people wanted to vote, there is a way that they can do that. And at the end of the day, does it also mean sooner or later he may even campaign for illegal immigrants to have the vote? And to be honest, I wonder which way they would vote. Which I guess means that if he gets in and gets his own way, we'll probably have a lot of lefty-leaning governments from now onwards. Which actually, unfortunately, seems to be the way the Conservative government is going, doesn't it? But hopefully, they'll actually start to listen to their members. But of course, the recent convention that Jacob Rees-Mogg and Priti Patel held for the members. So to be honest, to me, it kind of seems like Keir Starmer is trying to cheat in some way or another. Or shall we just say stacking the deck in his favour? And admittedly, he might be saying now that this isn't about Brexit or anything like that. But who knows what he could actually be saying in a future election if he actually becomes Prime Minister. So if anything, I think it's more of a delay rather than an outright no. But I think that's just my opinion. And of course, there's a chance I could be wrong. Although personally, I think if there was already a way for these people to vote, once they actually become British citizens, then I don't actually really see what the problem is. Drivers are likely missing out on millions of pounds worth of payouts because council rejections. Thousands of Brits try their hardest to claim compensation for injuries and damage caused by potholes every year, but councils are said to be rejecting 3 in 4 claims, keeping millions of pounds from Brits' pockets. There are of course more than 200 authorities that maintain and manage 260,000 miles of UK roads. Mail Online looked over 50 of these councils and discovered that overall a mere £3 million is paid out in compensation each year. But it found out that around 75% of claims are just thrown out, and £9 million could be being kept from drivers by that group alone. It looked over figures from April 2019 to March 2022, and it found out that each year at least 45 out of the 50 authorities audited rejected more claims than it paid out. Much of the refusals to hand over compensation fall on a loophole in the Highways Act 1980, which apparently says that councils and other authorities are liable for claims only if they have not inspected roads frequently or made repairs in adequate times. Councils are also said to be able to disregard claims if a pothole has not been reported. REC spokesperson Rod Dennis told Mail Online drivers may not be aware that their chances of claiming any pothole damage cost back from a local authority are virtually zero if the council can say it wasn't aware of the problem with the road in the first place. Of the 50 authorities audited, one of the worst was Dundee City Council, which over a 3-year period denied 96% of claims. The council paid out just 1.4% in compensation to people who were injured or had their cars damaged. Lincolnshire is one of the best payout rates of the group, rewarding 48% of its claimants. Meanwhile, Gloucestershire City Council paid out just 93 of the 1,667 claims it received, a little over 5%. In London, TfL closed 93% of claims submitted without compensation at all, and it paid out on just 24 of the 776 in total. Well, I think this is absolutely disgraceful, and it's about time the government actually put some sort of rule or method in place to close the loophole that these councils seem to be jumping through. I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, if something we accidentally done to a council-owned property or building or whatever, they'd more than likely expect us to pay. But of course, not for them. They can just seem to say, no, I don't think so. We'll not be paying you, I'm afraid. When it really shouldn't be that way at all. And let's face it shouldn't be up to us all the time to report these things to the council. We pay a lot of council tax and also, of course, vehicle exercise duty or road fund licence or road tax or whatever you want to call it. So surely at least some of that should be set aside for maintaining and inspecting our roads without the need for us to inform them of any problems ourselves. And I think inspections should actually be carried out quite frequently. I mean, it could even be done whilst they're on the way to other jobs, such as making a repair in a council-owned property or something like that. The driver can think, oh, there's a pothole there, I must make a note of that, and then put that through. But of course, just like it seems to the BBC, if they can seem to keep getting away with not compensating the public, or in the BBC's case, getting money from the public, then they're just going to continue doing it, aren't they? It would be nice in general, though, if some sort of smart ass could invent something which actually means that we don't get potholes anymore. But until that day, we'll just have to rely on our councils to, I don't know, take about 3 years to repair one, it seems. And just imagine the average pothole's lifetime, how many cars or vehicles may go into it and may actually get damaged because of it, which admittedly some drivers may claim on their insurance, but we shouldn't have to do that, should we? Because no doubt that could actually push up our renewal price when it needed, especially if rules were actually put in place for the council to be ordered to repay drivers for any repairs needed. You know, I don't know if it's just me, but nowadays it seems quite often as hard as getting blood out of a stone to get the council to do anything. And of course, to be honest, it really shouldn't be that way with the amount they seem to put the council tax up every year. But no, of course, they've got to do something to pay for their woke policies or woke agendas of renaming streets or whatever they need to do. Maybe, actually, I know this is a wild thought, but maybe, just maybe, they should knock that on the head instead. Especially as I'm guessing that probably only benefits about 2% of the country entirely. Did you know that if you subscribe, you are awesome? So why not give that button down there a push? The Home Secretary will tell a National Conservatism conference today that overall immigration numbers must be cut and workforce gaps filled by British citizens. And it comes as record numbers of migrants are expected to enter the country this year, with of course 56,000 entering illegally on small boats. Miss Braverman will insist her parents embraced the British values when they arrived from Kenya and Matatuas, I hope I read that right, in the 1960s, and integration was part of the deal. She is set to say it's not racist for anyone, ethnic minority or otherwise, to want to control our borders. I reject the left's argument that it's hypocritical for someone from an ethnic minority to know these facts, to speak these truths. My parents came here through legal and controlled migration. They spoke the language, they threw themselves into the community, embraced British values. They signed up to be part of our shared project because the UK meant something to them. Integration was part of the quid pro quo. And Miss Braverman will add, there is no good reason why we can't try up enough HGV drivers, butchers, or even fruit pickers. Brexit enables us to build a high-skilled, high-wage economy that is less dependent on low-skilled foreign labour. It's not xenophobic to say that mass and rapid migration is unsustainable in terms of housing supply, service and community relations. Nor is it bigoted to say too many people come here illegally and claim asylum when we have insufficient accommodation. The London conference will also hear from senior Tories such as Michael Gove and Jacob Rees-Mogg this week. Oh, do you know what? It's actually quite refreshing to hear something like that, isn't it? Because, let's face it, too often it seems like so many people nowadays just pander to the left just in case they get offended on Twitter or somewhere like that. At the end of the day, everything she said there is completely true in my opinion. And there is of course no reason why us British workers couldn't fill the jobs ourselves. Personally, I don't see why these jobs can't be done by someone on the dole. And now I'm not talking about people who are sick or can't work for medical reasons. I'm talking about the people who are just out there looking for jobs. And if, say, after 6 or maybe even 12 months they haven't found one, then they'd be offered whatever job in a struggling sector after that time, and if they choose to turn it down, then they'd face some sort of sanction or something like that. Because surely isn't that the idea to get people into work in the first place? And let's say, for example, if the job that they were offered requires training, the job centre will then obviously pay for that, which will not only help to get people off the dole, but will also stop a small minority of people from spending their whole lives on the dole, because unfortunately there is a small minority of people who, let's face it, just want to sit on the dole, don't they? And no, I'm not talking about people who can't work for medical reasons or anything like that. I'm just talking about people who can actually work but choose not to. And if they knew in a year's time they'll be given a job at XYZ or wherever that they might not like, that might actually give them the emphasis to get out there, hand their CVs out and get a job themselves. But let's face it, in general it's actually quite harder to get a job nowadays, isn't it? Not only because of the amount of people trying to get a job, but because nearly every job out there requires you to be qualified up to your eyeballs before they'll even give you an interview. So if something like this is put in place, then surely that needs to change. Or at least some sort of allowance put in place. Like, I don't know, the job centre will pay for training or something like that. Also, I think there's a very good point she was making about British values and the way obviously we do things over here. And surely you'd like to think that anyone coming over here legally, not the illegal people who are coming over here, they should be sent back in my opinion, but the people who choose to come here legally should be more than happy to embrace our British values and the way we do things, because otherwise, why would they even want to come here in the first place? But so often it seems like we change our things to suit other people, when of course that should not be the case. I mean, if we choose to live in another country, we certainly would have to respect their values and the way they do things, so they should respect ours in my opinion. And you know, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the vast majority do respect the way we do things and things like that, but unfortunately there will always be a small few that would rather we did things their way from their country instead of ours, but I'm sorry, that's just tough. This, of course, your mayor happens to be someone like Sadiq Khan, who, if I remember rightly, prioritised Ramadan over St George's Day. And of course, even though it may seem that Keir Starmer's been panicking, I don't think he was too much with the sneaky deal in this video that he seems to be doing. Anyway, subscribe for more and I'll see you in the next one.